I just thought it was normal to cry on Christmas or the holidays. And that's something that it took a lot of therapy and reflection on myself to try to get out of and figure out a way that it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to get help.
Yeah. And for me, I just had all these emotions. So I was like, I didn't know how to cope with anything really. So for me, it just all kind of came out, and I just, started hitting my windshield. And that's when my dad was, texting me and everything like that. And then that, for me, it's hard to ask for help. So after texting him a bit, I was like, I think I need help.
But for the first time, that you just, it's rough to see. And when you love somebody and they need help and you can't do anything to help them,
that's the worst feeling in the world. Welcome to Stronger Than the Storm, the podcast where resilience meets hope. I'm Melissa Owen, your host, and here at Beacon for Hope, we shine a light on stories of strength, courage, and the unbreakable human spirit. Through life's fiercest storms, we don't just survive, we rise, rebuild, and thrive. Today, I'm joined by co-host
Kenny Rodriguez, and today's one of his special podcasts. I have my daughter Selena Rodriguez and her wife Ashley Rodriguez. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
So I'm glad you guys agreed to be on this. I know you guys, I know your journey, and I know I don't know the whole thing, but I know the surface and what we dealt with on our side, and it's a good time to, you always got to talk about what happened and makes you feel better and all that stuff. But so let's start with Ashley. Tell us about yourself and your journey and what kind of troubles struggles you had to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Kenny said, it's Ashley, and I'm originally from Wichita and moved to Emporia in 2016 to go to ESU. And my family, a lot of people in my family struggle with their mental health and are on medications for it, or just have different coping things with therapies and things like that. I know that it wasn't something that was talked about a lot. Having a mother who has borderline personality disorders with manic episodes and lows, and I just thought it was normal to cry on Christmas or the holidays. And that's something that it took a lot of therapy and reflection on myself to try to get out of and figure out a way that it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to get help. Not all moms are like that, but she did the absolute best that she could with what, she could do for our family. And, my aunts had also dealt with it. And that was something that even now as an adult that I've dealt with.
Selena?
Yeah, I was born in Emporia, and I've lived here all my life. I grew up with,
Pretty awesome dad.
yeah, pretty awesome, and parents who
I hear he's
obviously,
okay.
yeah, and parents who are obviously, still together, to this day. So, we really didn't. I don't remember, having conversations a lot about mental, mental health and everything like that. Um, I do, like, every now and then hear about someone in the family having like some sort of like depression or anxiety. So kind of got a glimpse of that, but really not in our household. So I wasn't, informed, or, you know, knew what to expect, or, knew what the signs were. Um so whenever I was like diagnosed, I looking back on it now, I was like, oh, that's what was, that was anxiety, that was a panic attack and everything like that. So um yeah, but now obviously we're all informed. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm definitely guilty of not talking about it, but my parents, grandma and grandpa didn't talk about it. Mom's
Yeah.
parents didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And basically because we didn't understand it, and I don't know, I've dealt with it myself, later in life, and I definitely understand the anxiety and the depression, but not to your guys' extent. But yeah, that's something we didn't. I think a lot of parents just want everything to be okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you're talking about something that's wrong, then it causes a lot of stress.
It does, because you internalize it as a parent of what did you do wrong? What did you not provide
Yeah.
for them? What did, And and I definitely grew up in uh, the time where we didn't talk about it either. So, yeah, we didn't understand what somebody struggling meant, or they had panic attacks or anxiety because we weren't taught it in school. I mean, you didn't see anything. There weren't resources anywhere, posters. There just wasn't anything available. And if you did hear of somebody that, was having a mental health issue, then they were very much stigmatized as, oh, avoid that person, because of this, that, or the other.
Yeah, I didn't have my first class on suicide until it was early 2000s. I was at drill, and they had a lot of soldiers, kill themselves. So we had a class on suicide, what to look for, not what to do if you're dealing with it, but just what to look for if your partner is dealing with it, and who to call, and no coping mechanisms whatsoever.
Right.
Um, and as a kid, if you were sad or whatever, there's, just get your head up, deal with it.
Yeah.
So,
And I wonder if, like, um, and I was just, but like, Kenny and Maria and their family grew up, very Catholic and things like that. And I wonder if, when you do have those internal struggles and everything else, you are led to, of course, pray about it and go to church and everything. And that all that stuff is great. And that's what they need to help and everything. But I wonder if that almost made it harder to talk about it, because then it's like, well, those are your personal struggles and tribulations, things like that within yourself. And, you talk about it to, the person that you need to. But then I wonder if, it made it where they didn't talk as much to each other. So it's kind of like, if someone is in a religious family, is to kind of do both, talk to them maybe about what they're praying for or what they need help with. Because whatever someone's beliefs are or something like that, that they're spiritually, they'll get help in that way as well, of course. But also we need the immediate people around you to help you as well. So just don't forget to turn towards each other.
And I think it's hard when you are the one struggling to go to your parent, especially. How do you even start that conversation? When mom and dad think everything's fine, and suddenly things aren't fine, and they haven't been fine for a while. And then, everybody starts to spiral in a way. Everybody's, parents are trying to problem solve of, okay, how can we fix this internally first, right? Before we invite strangers into our business, because we like our privacy. I mean, so if you reach out to a therapist, well, what's that going to be like? And, how private is that going to be? And, it's hard. I mean, it's a whole layer. I feel like when it comes to when you have children that, struggle, and you don't know what to do, and you certainly don't know who to turn to. And as a parent to say, hey, my daughter's really struggling right now and I need help, because you think as a family unit, you should be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, one things we did, if you're having a struggle, there's always the prayer chain. That's probably the first that went, hey, Selena's struggling with depression. Can you pray for her? And then people at the church, they pray for you and pray for them. And then you talk about it with them. And, if it's women, they talk about it. If it's men, got you. I know what the issue is, and I know how to address it. And we don't need to talk about it any further than that.
Yeah. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah. So you always see those TikToks when the wife is like, the man's telling the wife, hey, so-and-so's getting married. Oh yeah, where at? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, when?
Or they broke up.
Yeah.
Why? It's like, I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's how men are.
No details.
No details,
Just frustrating.
Yeah.
We are detail oriented. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So do either of you remember when you started to notice in yourself that you were struggling? Maybe, you were feeling anxious, or maybe, you were hitting, some lows that you just weren't able to recover from, that might be just, fluctuations.
I noticed, well, I noticed I felt different, in high school and everything like that. Just whenever it had to do with school or anything like that, a speech, having to give a speech, and I just would just tense up, and And even now, like my voice would shake and it would just be hard for me to speak. But after my previous relationship, things didn't really end well. And after that, I would say, spiraled. I would go to like once it hit 5 o'clock, I would go to the bar, drink, play on my phone, just keep drinking and drinking, and then have a friend pick me up, and that kind of turned to be like a daily thing, and it started to be like a thing I look forward to, like then, I get up and I'm like, okay, wait for 5 o'clock, because for me I was like, well, what do they say? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So I would, look forward to that. And I noticed, like, to me, I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, I'm not drinking all day. I'm just waiting till, till the evening to drink. And it got, out of hand. And I remember after that, like, after my previous relationship, I did end up going into a mental facility because I did want to end my life. And that's when they diagnosed me with anxiety and depression. So now I was like, oh, now that what I was feeling before, and now I know what it is. And I remember one day I went to go see my mental health counselor, and he would ask me, what do you do all day? Because I was, at the time, my previous partner, we both worked at the same job. So I was like, okay, I can't see each other. I'll let you keep this job, and I'll find somewhere else to work. So I was kind of in between jobs. So that's what I did all day, was drink. And when I went to go see my mental health counselor, he was like, so what do you do all day? And I was like, well, I just sit at home and I wait to drink. And he was like, you don't think that's a problem? I was like, no, I'm fine. And he was like, he's telling me, 4 DUIs is considered a felony at the time. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And yeah, then I realized, I was like, I need to get a handle on this. And even still, I got a job where I met my wife, Ashley, and I still was, you know, partying, drinking. And I know that, had an effect on, our relationship at the beginning, because I still wasn't completely coping with things and completely over things that had happened. And for me, it was hard to find help or to ask for help, because I know, like, it seems like, sorry, I'm trying to
Oh, you're
get my
fine.
words. Like, to me at the time was like, oh, you had a heartbreak. And like, I was like, there's people out there dealing with much more and wanting to end it over much more. I was like, that's not a good reason to ask for help. So I was holding it in for the longest and longest time. And I remember one night we were hanging out at my friend's house, and I left and just drove out in the country. And I remember I just couldn't handle it all. So I punched my windshield and, broke it. And then I ended up driving back to my friend's house and just lying in bed and sleeping. And then the next morning, I think I remember my sister must have drove by, because my friend's house was right down the street from my parents' house. So she was driving home, and she must have saw my windshield, and then she must have messaged my dad, and they were all wondering.
I was the one that drove by.
Oh, was it you?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I drove by. I saw the windshield, and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
So I text her, and I'm like, "Hey, somebody smashed your windshield." And then she's like, "That was me."
Yeah. And for me, I just had all these emotions. So I was like, I didn't know how to cope with anything really. So for me, it just all kind of came out, and I just, started hitting my windshield. And that's when my dad was, texting me and everything like that. And then for me, it's hard to ask for help. So uh, after texting him a bit, I was like, I think I need help, and that was very hard because I don't like being vulnerable in like front of like my family and
Mhm.
everything like that. So that was that was very hard for me to do.
Yeah, she smashed her window from the inside, not
Wow.
the outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the inside.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you find that all the drinking, it wasn't numbing your pain anymore? Like that wasn't
Yeah.
working anymore?
Yeah. It kind of just like put a band-aid on it.
Yeah,
And I
sure.
was like,
Sure.
after a while, it just kind of came out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was actually working when I drove by, and as a police officer, this is something I deal with all the time with people that are wanting to harm themselves. And that was a different experience when it's somebody you love dearly.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah.
I was actually covering for a sergeant. I was supervising a shift, and I was covering for him. And I think somebody came in and relieved me when we took her to the hospital. And but that was yeah, don't want to go through that again. I mean, that was for now I'm better equipped to handle it,
Right.
knowing, I'm a little bit more educated
Mm-hmm.
on it. But for the first time, that you just, it's rough what to see. And you when you love somebody and they need help and you can't do anything to help them.
That's the worst feeling in the world.
And
It
I
is.
wish I could say that was like the last time, but there was a time about probably like 3 years ago that I ended up having to go back somewhere. And I know that was I would say a bit more rough because we were married for about 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
We were 2 years into our marriage, and I know that was probably rough for you because you had to deal with that, but also you guys had to deal with that too. So I know that was rough leaving you for a bit. Yeah.
It was definitely scary. I remember we were going through the foster process, and we were on our last walkthrough. We just had to come walk through, and we'd done all the classes. We had done everything, and and I knew that she had we've been together so long that I understood that she had anxiety and depression, and we had worked through a lot of those things. But she came home. She left her job early one night, and she had worked overnights then too. And she came home around like 1:30 in the morning, flipped the lights on in the bedroom, and is bawling. And I woke up, disoriented. It was in the middle of the night, and she tells me, I can't do it. I can't do it. We can't have kids right now." It's just she was spiraling a bit then too, and um, so a little bit, I guess. I mean, I had to have a hysterectomy this year, but even before then, I've had a lot of reproductive issues and things like that. And so, but even since I was little, I've always wanted to be a mom. And so that kind of, to hear that we were so close to becoming foster parents, and then to have the person that I'm going to have children with and everything kind of take that back in that moment. I mean, I realize now, like, 3 years later, we're different people. We're in a much better place, whether it's emotionally, financially, maritally, we're a lot better place. I think we could have handled it then, but we're going to excel now. But at that time, that's all you're focused on. That's all you've been working towards. And shortly after that, I, started to see that, okay, well, her depression and anxiety is getting worse and worse. And then it was before she was going to go to work one day. She, was crying, and she's telling me, because like we would check in with each other, just be like, "Hey, how are we doing?" Things like that. And she's like, "Hey, my thoughts are getting worse and worse. They're not going away. They're staying." And of course, like I was like, "Okay, cool." I call her dad, and we drive her to the hospital, and we say like to get her immediately somewhere safe, because she had talked about that. She had already had a plan. Like, once it gets to that point, like even if someone starts talking about it, you waste out resources, things like that. But when someone has a plan and is already planning to leave you, it's a lot scarier situation. And
Absolutely.
um, so we took her to the hospital, and we were awake for like 36 hours.
Yeah, it was a long day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and we stayed in the waiting room because, in case someone listening doesn't know, but like when you take someone there to get care, they're immediately taken back into an isolated room. You're not allowed to speak to them, speak to the person that you brought in. You can't give them anything. They can't have their phone. Basically, the love of my life told me she wanted to kill herself, and then she was yes, she was getting help, but at the time, all I saw was that she was ripped away from me, and I was not allowed to tell her how much I loved her, how much I wanted her to be here. And I think that's something that, Kenny can say. If it comes to Selena, I'm going to stand up for her and try my best to do anything. Eventually, I was able to get a nurse to give her the tiniest piece of paper. She actually still carries it in her wallet.
Yeah.
But basically, her mom and her dad and I, we were able to write her a message. And it was, my goodness, the scrap of paper. If they were going to bend a rule, they could have got a bigger piece of paper.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
tiniest piece of paper. But we were able to just write to her to say that we loved her and that we needed her to be here, and that um, like he said, unfortunately, you can't fix it for them. They
Right.
have to want to be here. And then they were able to take her to a facility that I think it was the best thing that she needed. I mean, it was a facility that my previous therapist had joked that people would be like, "Oh, I really need to go back," just because they help so much, and the way they use pet therapy and art therapy, and they treat them like human beings that are there. It's not just like, oh,
Something that needs to be fixed. And
yeah,
out the door.
yeah, like she was, but I remember once they told me that, she was, taken, that they had found her a bed and they took her there because these people, if someone's in crisis, you don't know if the bed's available. You don't know about
Right.
your insurance. When I went through my crisis, my insurance didn't cover it. So I was on 24-hour watch. Like it was, not everyone has access to go to a facility to get help, much less one that's actually going to treat you like a human being. And so I remember Kenny and Maria dropped me off at home after she was taken to a facility, and I fell to the floor and I just bawled. And I had to end up calling my mom to come up and be with me because I couldn't handle it. I would constantly look at my phone to see if she had called me because I can't call her, and it's you don't know what's happened from the moment she left the hospital until she calls you next. And a lot of it was that maybe she didn't want to call me. She did write to me in a journal and let me know. And in that journal, even in like the 5 days maybe that you were
Yeah, it was
there,
like
something like that, um, I could tell how like devastatingly like gone she was almost in the beginning, and like how the way she was writing and everything else too, in that 5 days, like she started to sound more hopeful towards the end of it. And I cried reading it, but I needed to really understand where she was at. One thing that I've learned about Selena, and it's something that we've worked through in our marriage, is that Selena needs time to think and process something before she's able to speak about it. So I'm someone that's like, oh, if we're arguing or if we're talking, I'm like, oh, I need a response right now.
Oh.
Yeah, and I need to
Yeah.
like talk about right now.
And
But
that's
Selena
something
can't do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
She
I have
needs to
to
process it.
yeah, I have to
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
and I have to make sure I don't say something like that is gonna not I don't wanna I'm not
Not hurt your
mean,
feelings, but
but
you want to think through
I
what
wanna
you say.
yeah, and I wanna say the right thing
Mhm.
so I don't leave her, hanging.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so I've learned to give time and grace to the people around me and to
Mhm.
my wife to make sure that, our communication is good and nothing gets lost because she's having to rush out a response.
Yes.
And so that comes a lot with like anxiety or depression or
And the thing I used to say a lot when she was like, "Well, what are you thinking?" And I'm like, I would just say, "I don't know." And I
Mhm.
know that would, probably be frustrating for you to hear.
but I realize how important it is to make sure that I hear her and then I
Yeah.
understand what she's trying to say to me. And so
Even
we've
though it may cause you a little bit of anxiety waiting for the
yes,
response at the
Yeah.
time, right?
it
Yes.
is,
Yes.
but I've learned how to to work through that and
Mhm.
everything. Because I mean, she stood by me, um, at the early part of our relationship when I've dealt with my own crisis and family things as well.
How is it now for you, Selena, if to reach out if you're struggling? Are you
Oh,
able to say to Ashley, you know what, I'm having a bad day?
yeah. And with that, I'm like, like, I'm like, "Hey, this is what I'm going through. I'm gonna need you to be like more reassuring or just be patient with me." And I do feel more comfortable, and I can do that like quicker without like trying to build up the courage to,
Yeah.
to say that, because it is hard for me. Even with you, it's hard for me to ask for help. So
And I've been so proud of her because sometimes like in med changes or things like that, or with a lot of these SSRI meds, like after 24 hours they're out of your system, you're almost out of your system, and so it sometimes your anxiety can spike when you don't realize. And so sometimes she's told me like
yeah.
something will happen and she'll get flustered or something. She's like, oh, I'm sorry for overreacting. And I'm like, you're reacting. And I think that's one thing that as human beings we're told, like, oh, they're overreacting, they're blowing this up. No, that's important to that person in that moment.
That's right.
And they are just reacting to something. So, like, I feel like it's something that I know that we're working on is that she always apologizes for overreacting. And I said, honey, I don't know where you heard you're overreacting about something, but someone should be able to react how they like and not have to apologize for their emotions or what they're feeling. And so, but I've been really proud of her that she can communicate.
Yeah. And to me, it feels like if I talk about it too much, I feel like I'm burdening her with, my emotions and my feelings. But I also know that if I'm anxious about something, I do need to talk about it. I might need to talk about it like 5 times just to get it out.
Sure.
And then I feel better after that. But some days it's easier for me to do that. And then other days I'm like, okay, I don't want to talk about it for the third time.
Right. I think we're all like that. When you're really anxious about something, maybe 5, 6, 7 times it's the same thing, but you need that reassurance.
Yeah.
And she's worth it every time.
Yeah.
So no matter how many times I'll be there for her.
How many times you talk about this today, coming in today?
Oh, probably like a handful.
Yeah, but it's on both of us.
Yeah,
we've both been
yeah.
nervous, so
Yeah.
Was it a little bit more comfortable coming in knowing that you would have Ashley next to you?
Oh, yeah.
And safe
Yeah.
for you, Ashley?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, Ashley, you're used to talking to people, or at least little people.
Yeah.
But you have to put together a curriculum and talk all day pretty much. So you're used to that. You're
I'm not.
not so much. Yeah.
I just like to listen. And
Yeah.
like if I talk, I like to prepare it in my head.
Sure.
But even in my head, like I'm like, yeah, this sounds good. And then when I talk, I'm like stumbling over my words.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm really good at making our doctor's appointments and different things.
Oh,
for
for sure.
her. So
Because because I had to like when I'm waiting for them to pick up, I'm like, okay, you say this, you say this.
Yeah.
And then I still stumble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her mom used to have to make her doctor's appointment all the
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
And she used to have a hard time ordering at the drive-through too.
Oh yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is anxiety, man.
It is. It's anxiety.
Yeah.
Stumbling over the order.
yeah,
Am I going to be close enough to the window to pay and to get the food?
And then I'll be honest, if they have a tone, I'm like, they're mad at me. You know?
Yeah.
yeah,
Even if it's a stranger, I'm like,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
It is
I did something to upset them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. And I think a lot of us go through that. I think with anxiety, especially anxiety, if we hear a tone from somebody, you think you've done something and you internalize it, and then that kind of follows you.
Yeah. And even
No.
if Ashley's having a bad day and she's not mad at me, but she's just frustrated, and I can see that, and I'm like, okay, I'll leave you alone because I don't want to make, upset you or anything like that. And then she'll come to me and she's like, I'm mad at you. I'm just frustrated. It's not at you or anything like that. And I'm like, okay.
That's I try to communicate that, but some days, like it's me. I work with 8 and 9-year-olds. I teach 3rd grade, so it's it's hard to have like beef with an 8-year-old, but it's very much possible. And it's like, so I come in and I'm just frustrated and everything, and then she's like, "Oh, how are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, can you just take care of dinner?" And she's like, "Oh, it's one of those days. Okay." Don't ask her anything. Don't. Yeah, but we try to communicate if we're having a hard day.
Yeah.
Things like that, just to not spike the other one's anxiety or anything like that.
So what do you do to keep the balance when you do come in with a hard day and you obviously notice? What are some things that you do to allow her to de-escalate herself? Because, give her some space and I can take care of dinner. What are other things, like if you guys are like have a high, you're like at a peak of anxiety, or, just everything is going wrong in the day and just one more thing will be, what do you do for one another to help cope with each other's emotions?
Yeah.
I think one thing, it sounds cheesy, but like we're each other's person. So like we make each other laugh and we do a lot with
Yeah.
humor. And so it's like you're texting like, oh, I'm having such a bad day. Like I've been crying today. Like it's just been really rough. And then they come in the door and we've talked about it where it seems like I promise I wasn't lying, but you came home and now I'm in a better mood. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
just
and it's
being
just,
around each other, like,
yeah.
it helps
But
for
but
most of the time.
yeah, but let's say that like, her anxiety is high and she's starting to panic or something like that. And I've had a really rough day too. And it's like, oh, we're not in a joking mood. We're not in that kind of mood. It's kind of like where they say, 50-50 or something like that. Sometimes you have to carp or compartmentalize or whatever that word is, like,
Mhm.
kind of put yourself in a little box if you're able to. And then I support her. And then it's kind of like she does the same for me once she's regulated.
Mhm.
Because I mean, and a lot of it's from like working with kids too with a behavioral specialist, but a lot of it is if you are dysregulated, you are not in a position to like one, like receive any information, to be talked to that much or anything else. You're just going to continue to, escalate and everything. And so if you can find a way to, mutually
Yeah.
try to regulate somewhat, then you're able to be open and receptive to the other person. And I think that's, you know, when when like couples fight or couples, or they're both escalated and they're both having a bad day at work and things like that, I think that's part of, sometimes they forget that the other person's also heightened and you're not in a space to try to solve whatever's going on at the time. You need to both come down first. And so we really try to, I don't know if you've heard of it. I have an app called Finch, and it's like it's a little bird that you take care of. And like it's like when you take your meds or you practice deep breathing, you get like little gems and you can like dress up this little character. It's
Yeah.
like it's a free app. But anyways, so on there it's called a first aid kit and it has like panic breathing, rainbow breathing, things like that. And after this I can show it to you because I think it'd be really cool. But there's panic breathing,
Yeah.
or what's 5 things you can see, 4 things, things like that. And we actually do those together to ground ourselves.
Mhm.
And we've just had a lot of therapy. And so
Yeah.
we're lucky now to have a lot of mindfulness techniques and different coping skills that we can use, that we just kind of have in our back pocket.
Yeah, very nice.
Well, so is the panic breathing, is that something you can use on a daily, like just to keep any anxiety away, like
Before the panic?
before the panic? Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
I
it the
mean,
box breathing?
well, that's one of them. They come in so many different
Yeah.
ways. Like in my calm corner at work for the kids, there's ones where they trace a bumpy line because it's a simulation, or I mean, ice cold water on your wrist, like just under the sink, it shocks your system to focus on something else. When you go to panic and everything else, your brain thinks that there's a danger or something's going to harm you or something like that, and it goes into fight or flight or freeze. And so you're kind of trapped there until either like the cold water kind of, gets your system out of it. The breathing kind of, slows down your heart rate and things like that. So you can kind of get out of that moment. And like box breathing, we usually do like, in through your mouth or in through your nose for 5, hold for 5, and breathe out of your mouth for
Yeah.
5. And it gets you to think about it. Whereas if you start to hyperventilate just through your nose, having to go from nose to mouth really gets your brain to start trying to do that. But yeah, you can use it for.
You mentioned the cold water on the
Yeah.
wrist. We were talking with Dr. Waters on his episode, and he was mentioning cold plunge as a good technique to cope with, you know, or cold shower.
Yeah.
It's a good way to combat anxiety or to prevent anxiety.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because like it's just a break in the cycle of what you're feeling. So starting to panic, starting to tense, everything else. If you can get something that interrupts that,
Mm-hmm.
then and it's one of those that's it's a temporary discomfort because it's ice cold, things like that, but it's not a way that's going to harm you.
Right.
I feel like that's where a lot of at least from my experience, self-harm and things like that come from is because, oh, if you do this thing, then that makes you feel better. But there's safer, ways to help you through that moment that are, that aren't harmful to yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, Selena, you said it was what, 3 years ago, your last hospitalization. So obviously you're doing well,
Yes.
which is awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I feel like I'm doing a lot better.
So, are there times where you start feeling like you're starting those negative thoughts start to kind of creep in again? Are you able to silence them quicker?
Yeah, yeah,
Good.
and I do think my depression really isn't bothering me as much.
Mhm.
Like right now, I would say it's mostly my anxiety and like dealing with panic attacks and
Mhm.
like I would say like obsessive thoughts and everything like that. But I do even this past week, I've think I've gotten better, with because I know a couple of weeks ago I was just a mess, I would say, and um, now I'm just like, okay, everything's gonna be okay. Even if I am anxious, even if it's at work, I get overwhelmed at work. I'm like, okay, let's just take, a couple of deep breaths. Because for me, that's like something that's hard for me to do. Like, I do think sometimes when I am panicked or having high anxiety, I do kind of give in to that.
Mhm.
And it's hard for me to, like, I'll start breathing, but it's after everything's heightened
Yes.
and worse. So it's hard for me to calm down.
Mhm.
And I do think that's my thing I need to work on is, okay, you're feeling anxious. Let's start take deep, some breaths or
Right.
do like the cold water
Mhm.
before everything gets
Mhm.
worse. Because I know my anxiety and depression would affect my work a lot. And during that time, I was kind of jumping from job to job. And like now I'm at a job that I like
Good.
and I want to keep it. So I got to keep things under control
Mhm. Mhm.
and, stay on track.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody at work, either one of you, that you've recognized what you have been through that aren't asking for help? Have you ever reached out to somebody, say, hey, like you're struggling? Is everything okay?
I would say I've made a friend this summer that um, I happened to see on Facebook that they had gotten out of um, like a relationship and things like that. And they were just kind of, their world kind of got turned upside down and were really struggling. And so I reached out to them and just said, like, hey, if you're needing support, someone outside your circle or anything, like I'm here. And, I didn't want to like obviously push it or anything else, but I let them know if they need help finding resources or anything, like I can be there for them. And they're just someone that I have seen around work and things like that, but had never really connected a lot with. It's just one of those like, oh, we work at the same place, it's at each other on Facebook. And now, I mean, we've gotten a lot closer and things like that. But I tend to be an oversharer. I used to be very private. I mean, even like in high school and things like that, I was withdrawn. I just kept to myself, and I was really struggling. I didn't come out until college and things like that, and so it was hard. And so, but now, like being in Emporia and things like that, I wanted to make sure that I, was myself and I was, outspoken and things like that. So, um, I overshare because if I'm going through something, maybe someone else is, and maybe they don't know that someone else goes through these kind of things. So, me opening up about being 26 and having to have a complete hysterectomy, I mean, that's not, as heard of at my age group. And there was people, privately at work that came up to me and was like, hey, I didn't know that you're going through that. Like I've gone through similar things. And it gives someone else, just someone to talk to about something.
Mhm.
So I'd rather, be the first person to talk about it and let, other people know that they're not alone about it.
Absolutely. Making those connections. We always say, hope links us together. So always try to find ways by sharing your story, no matter what you're talking about. It doesn't have to be mental health based at all, but somebody who knows that you've gone through something similar and makes it a safe space for somebody to maybe come to you privately and be able to talk, about how their experience affected them. And that it was so relieving to know that there was somebody else that had been on that part of that journey. Yeah, I think a lot of us with anxiety and depression, I think you feel so isolated and alone that you think you're the only one experiencing something like that. And then it's scary because you're experiencing that. And then you don't want to tell anybody that you're experiencing that because they might treat you differently. You're going to lose friends. You're going to, your family. I mean, all the things related to stigma, right?
Right.
All the things. Um, so being able to be open about even just part of your story. That's why I say you don't have to tell it all, just whatever you're comfortable with. You can just say, I struggle with anxiety and depression. And the amount of relief that you are to a group of people where, they do too. And to see you be brave enough to
Yeah.
just identify as somebody who struggles. Because, how many times, well, I would have never guessed, right? Because we wear our masks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that you went through that or you're going through that. Yeah.
Yeah, when I first told one of my sergeants that I was struggling with it, he just kind of brushed it off, you know. Then the second sergeant I told was about maybe a year or two, because I wanted them to understand why I was suffering. My work wasn't getting done the way it should have been. And I was like, hey, I'm struggling with this, you know. And he's like, well, we got employee assistance, you know, you want to take advantage of that? Like, nope, I don't want to go to the same place that the parolees are going and wait in line with them while I'm waiting to talk to the same counselor that they're going to. Nothing against them, but, you know, I'd rather do it, you know, have somebody professional that, you know, I feel I can trust a little bit more. Of course, he never did it. I never did anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know if you know that is one of the reasons why I left policing, because I was like, I'm not doing these guys any good just by
Yeah.
taking up space and hiding in the city the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that's like the hard thing, like about work is like, if you are like, dealing with depression, anxiety, like for me, if I want to call in, I'll just say I'm sick. I
Right.
don't want them to know that, oh, it's my anxiety, it's my depression, because I don't want to be looked at like different. And I think that's hard for people to like what are they called? Mental health
Mental health
days.
days.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's hard for like people to like take. Sometimes they'll, even if they're burnt out,
Mhm.
they'll still keep going, and eventually they'll quit. It's happened to me before, and it's hard, and it's not doing anybody else any good by not taking those.
That's right. That's right. And there's no shame in
Yeah.
taking a mental health day. I hear it a lot with parents with their kids, especially in high school. Why allow my kids to take mental health days? I think that's great. Give them a break if they're feeling overwhelmed and the pressure, and all that, because we all are like pressure cookers. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes, and where it's okay, more and more and more and more. And you need a day off, just a day to do nothing.
Yeah.
No responsibilities, no timelines,
Watch
nothing.
TV or something.
Yeah, just watch
Or do
TV.
something fun.
It's a part of self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will put on Netflix. I'm like, I need something dumb,
Yeah.
just like mind-numbingly dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about anything. Don't want my, laptop in my lap while doing it. No, I just want to, yeah. And I think there is a huge difference, because if you call in sick, they don't think twice about it, right?
Yeah.
They're like, okay, she's sick. But if you were to say, I really need a mental health day, and just say that, there's a whole other stigma attached to that.
Yeah, and it's like, well, why do you need that?
Exactly.
You're fine physically,
Mhm.
so why can't you come into work?
Mhm.
And that's dangerous,
Yes.
because your mind's not on work and on
Right.
the task, so you
Mhm.
could get hurt.
You could get hurt.
hurt somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I think some companies are doing better at recognizing that, and I don't know about Michelin or other factories, you know, but I think some companies are doing better about allowing a mental health day. It's usually probably in the corporate world, but
And I think they are too, because they've invested so much in you,
Yeah.
training you, and you're a valuable employee there. So, I mean, you could get to a point where, it's too much and you just quit. And then they have a brand new employee come in, and, they're not as talented as you and skilled as you. So people just quit and then start over.
that'd be a good idea for them to invest in they're already invested in their employees, but to
Mhm.
recognize, hey, this is a good employee.
Mhm.
Let's not push them away, because then
That's
we're going
right.
to have to
Yeah.
hire 2 or 3 more to replace that good employee.
I love mental health days. I take them myself, and I have no shame. And, I need a mental health day today. I'm completely overwhelmed and I just can't think. So I'm going to be so unproductive that I'm going to dig myself deeper in a hole, because I'm just spinning my wheels and I'm getting
Yeah.
frustrated with myself. And that raises my anxiety. And then really can't think. And yeah, I encourage my staff to take mental health days. I'm like, that's all you got to tell me. And cool, we'll see you the next day. Yeah, because it's important.
Yeah.
It's important. And we're all dealing with so many heavy things.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a different world we're living in since COVID, since before COVID, and especially since COVID. So um, I wish more companies were more sensitive to that. That it was scary coming back.
Yeah.
It was reintegrating, and you mean I have to stand right by somebody now? I mean, all the fears with that, and then getting back into being out in public, you know, all the time and having your social battery. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah.
I'm a social person, but there are days where I'm like, oh, I am done
Yeah.
because I'm just exhausted.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that. What do you mean? It's just talking. You just look like you're hanging out, you know. Well, I'm exhausted. I just want to be.
Yeah. That's how I
Right.
get a lot. Like, I'm like, I go out for a little bit and I'm like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And setting that boundary for yourself where you're
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. For sure.
What about you, Ashley, and your job and
Mhm.
your coworkers? I mean, what's the stupid fly?
Yeah.
What's the attitude towards mental health and as a teacher?
So, at the district and things like that, they really do like, we have a, employee assistance program and we're really, encouraged to use it, especially because, they offer like 3 free, like counseling sessions. And so that's been, a lot of people's introduction to therapy and things like that. It's like, hey, why don't you check this out and stuff. And I know that, even our like school counselors and things like that, we have amazing school counselors. And I even went to one last year when I was dealing with my surgeries and everything, and just be like, "Hey, I know that you're here for the students." It was like after school or anything, and she was like, "Yeah, here's this book, here's this resource." Like, coworkers are like, I mean, I couldn't have asked for better ones when I was my first year teaching and I had to leave for 4 weeks, and so it was something I was very anxious about. But because I had such a support system within my work that I'd never had before, it was just it helped a lot of the anxiety and things, but um, yeah, I mean, they're very much like, you need to take time, things like that. But unfortunately, we're in a sub shortage. And so there's that guilt of saying, like, oh, I can't leave my kids, or oh, we're going to be missing a lesson, or, like, I mean, she can attest to me making sub plans. It's like
Yeah.
writing every minute of the whole day. And it's the amount of work that goes into that is at that point, you're like, oh, it's not even worth it. I'm just going to stay. But then you get more burnout. And because even though it might say, like, oh, no school that day, well, it's either a work day or you're trying to work on other things, and it's hard to turn that off when you get home.
Sure.
And I tend to so, like, I turn to painting and to art as kind of a therapy, for myself because I love to read, but then I realized that reading uses the same part of my brain as I use at work. And so then it didn't feel like a rest anymore. It was like, oh, I had to think and everything. So then I turned to watercolors but if I have, because I'm also getting my master's right now. And so I also have college aside from that. And a lot of it can be overwhelming. But then if I have an assignment or something I need to do for work, I tend to like instead of giving myself time for self-care or things like that, it's like I don't get to do the things I enjoy. I'm like I can't enjoy those things because I'm not doing what needs to be done. And so then you get like was it executive dysfunction or something like that,
Oh, yes.
where you just sit there and then it's like hours have gone by and you're like, great, now I didn't do self-care and I didn't get the
Yeah.
laundry done. So now you're spiraling even more.
Yes.
Except for that. I love that. But Selena's really sweet because her kind of outlet is video games. And
Yep.
so we love to be in the same room and either like cuddle on the couch or something and she's playing her video games and I'm reading or I'm painting and while she's doing her thing. So we can be near each other and still check in with each other and
Yeah.
but also be able to kind of do our own thing.
Yeah, and you both have found a thing that's an outlet. Like for my son, it's video games. When he would have a stressful day, I would say, "Do you need to kill things?"
Yeah.
And
Right.
knowing that he was going to go play Fortnite, and he's like, "Yes, can I have an hour?" Absolutely, because that's how he regulated
Yeah.
himself, and stuff. So yeah, I think it's great that you each have your own unique. I think a lot of couples kind of morph into each other's hobbies, and you
Yeah.
really don't enjoy what the other person is doing, but you do it, you know. So I think it's great you're able to be in the same room, each enjoying
Yeah.
what you're doing, for sure.
Absolutely. That's one thing. I mean, there's other aspects I feel like that, we've kind of morphed into something, together, but we're both like, I think we're still kind of figuring that out is how to be individuals and how to navigate having, individual friends and
Hmm.
kind of, we're still our own person. We're not the same person who, when we fell in love to
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
We're learning, I don't know, I feel like you're constantly learning each other and just, you don't want to let the individuality like
Oh,
disappear from a
absolutely. Yes.
relationship. And so, like for my birthday, she was really sweet. It's coming up, and she was like, "Hey, why don't you do one of those paint party things?"
Oh,
Because she doesn't like art or that much, or she
Oh, yeah.
tries, and art gets
I
like
try to.
yeah,
If you get like a stencil, I can do it.
yeah,
Oh,
I paint my
absolutely.
I'm
numbers.
just not that
Paint my
creative.
numbers.
Yeah, paint by numbers.
Right?
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah,
creative like her. She can think of something in her head and put it on
And put it on
paper.
paper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Mhm.
that's hard for me. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that either.
Yeah, I can't either.
yeah.
I have a hard time even being the directed step by step. I'm like, mine does not look like that at all. Please don't look.
Yeah.
We went to do that party. I think you were there in
yeah. It was a
yeah,
couple years ago. Yeah.
and all we had to do was paint a flower.
Okay.
Mine came out looking horrible, and
Yeah. Well, I didn't go.
Maria's was good. My wife's was really good, and I don't know what yours was really good.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah, it was. Even Metch's was good. I don't remember seeing.
No,
She wasn't able to join us. That
Yeah.
day.
yeah, because I think I had to work.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
It was.
we'll see how you do at my birthday.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't have any high hopes for me.
All I hope is that you have fun. There you
Low
go.
expectations.
Yeah. So, Ashley, tell us about your recent accomplishment that you've been putting off for years.
Oh, you emphasize that years, huh? Um, so, I just got my license to drive. I struggle with anxiety and depression, and I mean, it had gotten so bad in 2019 that I couldn't leave the house,
Mhm.
and I went from being a department manager here in town to we moved to Manhattan, and I couldn't walk into a store without bawling. I couldn't go shopping, couldn't leave the car. Had therapy several times a week, and um, it was a very scary time. And so during that time, I like even as a teenager, trying to get your permit, things like that. I had so much anxiety and panic around driving that I just avoided it because I would get
Mm.
behind the wheel and have a panic attack. And
Yeah.
then that I'm on, like they up my meds and have adjusted and just I've been trying to accomplish a lot of fears and just get over a lot of things. And so I can drive now.
My gosh,
And,
that is awesome.
and
I
so
love hearing that.
then Thursday will be 2 weeks. So it's very recent. I drove to work. This is the first time I've ever driven myself to work.
How did that feel? How
Well,
scary is that?
it was scary because it was like storming this
Of
morning.
course.
Yeah, and it was pouring. It was like 6:30 in the morning, and I left early so that way no one was in the parking lot,
Yep.
so I could
Smart.
like
Yeah.
park however I needed to.
Yes. Nobody would see you backing up and
Yeah,
readjusting.
right? Yeah, I had called my mom and I put her in the cup holder so I couldn't see my phone wasn't near
Yeah.
me. But I was like, okay, mom, I can't see anything. These wipers suck. I can't. And keep in mind, my job is a 5-minute walk. So
Yeah.
it's like a
Oh,
3-minute drive, maybe.
okay.
It's so close.
Okay.
And so it's like just trying to,
Did you go to Riverside?
yeah.
Okay, so it's a block away or a block and a
Yeah,
half
it's-
away?
Hey, now, it's all right. It was storming. Okay. And but I did it. And then it was my sister-in-law, Meche, she made a comment that because right the day after I got my license, I was able to like go and pick up a friend and like we went to an estate sale and we went to the library and we like did all
Yeah.
these things and she was like Meche was like, "Ugh, you're like a teenager that just got their license. You're never
Yeah.
home now."
Yeah.
I was like,
That's great.
it was hard because like I just had to stay home and thankfully I have a wonderful I married into such a wonderful family that they're like yeah she's like I understand at the beginning like I know like my mother-in-law would sometimes joke be like oh Ashley you're gonna get your license like kind of just like the teasing
Yeah.
kind of thing and
Yeah.
she meant it sweetly but I think she realized that my anxiety and panic and things like that it wasn't just going to go away
Right.
and so that's one thing that I've been like open with my in-laws about like mental health and things like that. And I mean, I know that there was one time that I think apartment was out of AC or something like that, and it was around COVID, and we weren't sure if I
Yeah.
was gonna get a COVID test. At the time, I was scared of doctors. I have a full-blown panic attack in this man's front room, and, oh, you shoulda so, like, it was just my mom and I haven't really been down, like, around, like, a dad or anything, and
Mhm.
so this man went full on, like, dad. He, like, went down to my landlord's office, was like, "You better put AC in their apartment,"
Yeah.
and, like, he's like,
That
You're
was
not gonna cause my daughter-in-law to have a panic attack," like, he just went off, like, I think, like, after that, like, him, like, having seen me in that state was kinda
Mhm.
like, "Okay, this she can't, like, control, like, this is the thing," like, and everything, and they've just been so understanding and never really pushed me to go outside of things. They'd encourage me, but they were never like, "Oh, you need to do that," or, "Oh, Selena, like, you have to drive her everywhere," like, no, they were just like, "Oh, you need to ride to work," like, they would take me to work every single day
That's
and pick me
amazing.
up, and they just,
Absolutely.
been there.
Can you guess what the apartment management was?
Eucalyptus.
Yes.
Yeah.
that was intense because I don't like confrontation.
No, to this day,
Oh, yeah, I
she
still
instead
do.
of going through the drive-through again, she goes in parks and has me go in by myself.
I just
Oh.
don't
I'm
like
super nice about it. I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Hey," 'cause I mean, I've worked in those situations, like,
Yeah.
they just forgot. I'm like, "Oh, hey, this was just forgotten." They're usually, like, so, also
Yeah.
kind about it. And she's like, "But it's fine." I'm like, "I
Yeah.
paid $5 for that burger."
See, that's my attitude. I
Yeah.
paid for that.
Yeah, I'm
food.
gonna
Where
get
is
it.
it?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I was like, I know they forgot something, but I'm like, I don't want to inconvenience them.
Yeah, but I mean, no, you paid for that.
That's
Yeah.
You don't want to stop them from
Yeah.
playing their video games.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
But I feel
definitely
like I've gotten better.
yeah,
Like
you have.
sometimes.
I know,
Sometimes.
because it was, one day, I think I got a salad or something, and it didn't come with, like, the dressing and all the stuff, and she's like, "I'll go back and get it for you," and I was like, "Swoon." I just, like, I was just like,
Aw,
"Oh, wait a minute."
that's a big
Yeah.
step for you.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
definitely was.
I love those milestones
Right.
because some things that aren't difficult for some and really hard for somebody else, it's like, wow, that's amazing knowing, yeah, your history with it. So that's awesome. You're driving and you being able to, it's okay to go
Yeah.
back and ask for what you paid for.
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's really okay.
Yeah.
And I get it too. My daughter's the same way. Stopped at a fast food place for her and she does the order online and I go pick it up because she does not drive. She's learning, but she doesn't. Um, Not a problem. Get home and it's the wrong thing. And so I do it's fine. I'll be right back. And she's like, do you want me to come? Do you want to come? No. And I go back and then I have to go inside, right? Because I conveniently went through the drive-through to get it.
Yeah.
And I walk in and I'm standing there and I'm standing there forever. And finally someone's like, I'll get to you in a minute. I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. And I was like, this is not what I ordered. It has everything on it. I just need ketchup and cheese on it and stuff. And then there's the conversation about how they gave that sandwich to the wrong person. Well, that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
I'm just here
Yeah.
yeah.
Just make it right.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not trying to get upset. I just want what I paid for.
Yeah.
I just
Yep.
because this isn't going to be eaten. So
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, good for you. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Trying
Yeah.
little things.
Little things. That's right.
Yeah.
Baby steps in it. Yeah.
It is true though. I mean, when you're feeling overwhelmed and underwater, just checking off that first thing off the
Mhm.
box
Mhm.
is a good thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel better after it.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get through the scary part. And each time it gets a little less scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what did you say to me the other day? I was like, "Oh, do you want me to drive?" And then you were like, "No, I'll drive," because you said,
Oh, yes, because because I think I had, like, a hectic day or something like that, or was just overwhelmed, and then she was like, "Hey, do you wanna drive? Because you mentioned you're gonna drive home," and I was like, um, and then or no, yeah, you offered, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know." I was like, "Yeah, I should probably drive." She's like, "No, you've had a hard day, like, I'll just drive, like, you've been driving every day, like, you're doing a good job." And I told her, I was like, "No, I need to drive because if I give in to that fear again,
Mhm.
then I don't wanna go 2 steps backwards."
Yeah, good
And
for
so
you.
I was able to do, the breathing thing that we had talked
Yeah.
about and, push through that and, because okay, so we were over there leaving Marshalls, I think it was,
Mhm.
and so it's just busy over there on Industrial.
Oh, sure it is.
And so, and just going around that curve and everything else,
Mhm.
and so but, I mean, I did it.
"Yeah."
Got home in one piece, and
Good
it was
for you.
fine, but if you and I feel like that's something, like, you practice with work as well, is that if you get anxious and things like that, like, a way to cope with it and,
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of breathe through it, and then you get past it, because I know that I mean, even for myself, we, were bad about, like, oh, we're having a panic attack, things like that, like, leaving work, but,
Yeah.
like, sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you're so far dysregulated and everything else, like, you have to get away from the spot that
Mhm.
where that, feeling came from, but other times, if you're able to find a mindfulness technique or something to ground yourself again, then you're able to kinda push through the rest of your day.
Yeah.
And so even with my kids, like, or when I say my kids, sorry, my students, like,
Mhm.
I will tell them, like, if I'm very dysregulated and then it's like a million Miss Rodriguez's and then
Oh.
a pencil's just getting sharpened and then another one spilled their water bottle.
Oh my
And then,
gosh.
yeah, and I just tell them, like, okay, we need 3 deep breaths. And they know like, I'm gonna have new kiddos this year, but they'll learn quickly. But last year it was like they learned how to how to take 3 deep breaths and that we needed it.
Nice.
And I was like, I don't know about you guys, I really needed that. And I try to be,
Mhm.
like, I'm pretty, like, appropriately honest and open with my students. Like, they know that, like, if I'm having, like, a rougher day or something like that, I'm like, today's just one of those days, like, and, sometimes you need extra love on those days and I get extra hugs. And it's just like, letting them know that I'm a human too. And
Absolutely. Yes.
it's just,
Yes.
it's important for them to know that.
Yeah. Yeah. How about the kiddos? Do you notice at their ages? Can you tell kids that might be struggling?
It's a lot with anxiety.
Mhm.
And so or I had, I guess, a student that really struggled with, um, like, if they didn't have the right answer, or if there was a student that never got, like, redirected or anything like that. But if you did redirect them, they would have a kind of an explosion almost. Like, they escalated super quickly. It ended up being what we call a care call. It's just when, student support specialists will come down, and we have what's called the Tiger Stand at my school, and it's a place for students to go and get regulated or breaks, things like that. And they there was just a lot of anxious, and like nail picking, or the or like sometimes the clingier students, things like that, they need that constant reassurance. And it's just I see a lot of anxiety in that age group.
Mhm.
But also, like, the kindergartners that are coming in this year were COVID babies.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so we're gonna be seeing a big difference, from, kids that were socialized and everything and the
Yep.
ones that weren't.
Absolutely.
And I don't use a lot of technology. I mean, now we have the TVs instead of smart boards and things, but I don't use my Chromebooks a lot in my class, because once they get to the middle school and high school, they're going to be using them so
Yeah.
much that in third grade, I want them paper and pencil. I mean,
Good
we
for
use
you.
them as we need to,
Mhm.
but for the most part, everything's paper and pencil,
Yeah.
because, you know, I feel like it just helps them, because
Mhm.
being online and everything else, I mean, they're 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And so we practice a lot of mindfulness things. And
Good.
my kids last year loved the calming strips you got them.
Oh, yeah.
I put them on their name tags, so
Oh,
they had them on their
cool.
desk, and they were just
Yeah.
able to feel them. And
Yes.
I have fidgets always available
Mhm.
in my classroom, and have a calm corner, so they have a safe space to go. And I mean, there's expectations when you go to use it. Make sure it's a tool, not a toy. But
Mhm.
I mean, I think starting them young at that age to understand that emotions are okay and this is how we regulate them will help them in the long run as adults. Because sometimes I see things, on Facebook, or just things saying that, well, we're too soft on kids, or gentle parenting, or things like that. And it's like, no, we're treating them like human beings and saying it's okay to have these things. It's not, oh, suck it up, buttercup. It's, oh, you're having a feeling right now, and that is valid. But this is how we, deal with it. This is how we manage it and how we move on to the next
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
instead of them having to, push those feelings down.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that's so important.
I think that's how it was when I was growing up. You push those feelings down.
Yeah.
No, children were seen, not heard.
Yeah.
And your teacher was the all authority. And you just, I mean, you didn't want your name written on the board. And
Oh,
you definitely didn't want a check mark by it,
yeah.
because you were talking, or
Mhm.
whatever. So you learn just to be silent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want my name written on the paddle.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
But once it happened, I didn't have to deal with it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I knew not to get it on there again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's how old I am. Teachers were able to paddle their students back then.
Mhm.
I don't know. My mom was, she'll be 69 this year. She had me in her 40s because they told her she wouldn't be able to have kids. And so I was just a random, but no, I think that's one thing about having an older mother was that, she kind of grew up in that kind of, seen and not
Yeah.
heard,
Mhm.
kids played outside and you were not allowed to back in until a certain
Mhm.
time. And so she had more of an old school way of, bringing up, and just, she had a lot of struggles and things like that. And so, um, my childhood had some darker parts and things like that. And so a lot of my responses are trauma responses, and I'm very, um, I would say, like emotionally aware, like the tone of someone's, voice or the way their foot falls, or, just I'm super hyper aware because it's like you never knew when the other shoe was going to drop.
Yes.
And so that sometimes with teaching means that I feel a lot of things. Like I have 20 other souls in the room and I'm feeling what they're all feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be really overwhelming. But just as I'm teaching the kids, because we have 3 different SEL curriculums that we work through the year.
Oh, okay.
Like
Yeah.
we have so many resources and so many things that help these students. And, I make sure to prioritize them and just make sure that, they understand them, because I feel like I didn't have that as a child. I had to pay for really expensive therapy to learn a lot of these things. And so if we, give them these tools right off the bat,
Right.
hopefully that, I don't know what all their home lives are like, but if they, are in, some of those situations, that hopefully I'm giving them some of the tools to make it easier to get through.
Absolutely. And I think the more we talk about it and start at an earlier age where it's
Yeah.
normal, emotions are normal.
Yeah.
If you feel off, or if your stomach's upset, but you're
Yeah.
not sick, what is that? What's happening at school
Yeah.
that's creating that? I think we would have less absences,
Absolutely.
honestly, if we're just open about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take away the fear of talking about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What else you got, Kenny?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have been talking for over an hour.
Oh,
Yeah.
Didn't seem like you did it.
no.
No, I actually didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So what kind of advice would you give to anybody that would be struggling? Let me start with you, Selena. Say if you got a friend that you see that's struggling, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Okay, this might sound like, what
Cliche?
everybody says. Yeah, like a cliche. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. But it does get better. You just have to put in the work and work on yourself and use these techniques and maybe talk to somebody, even if it's just 3 times a day or just, however many times that you feel comfortable talking to somebody. Like, it's good to reach out and to show like you're not alone. And then people, you got people there that'll listen and they'll look out for you and take care of you. So I think, yeah, it'll get better.
Ashley?
I think this is where I get on my soapbox a little bit, but I think one thing that I feel like is, I mean, there's a lot of stigmas around mental health and, suicide prevention and things like that, but there's just like huge notion of saying like, oh, these people are selfish for what they're feeling, or they think that, they don't think about what they're leaving behind and things like that. But one thing is like a lot of times when I share my experiences and someone else tries to, they relate to it and they say, oh, but it's not as bad as what you went through. I hate when they say that. Not because like they're trying to do it out of kindness and everything else, but it's like that's the worst thing that that person's been through, and they need to realize that, just because our experiences are different does not, invalidate what they've been through. And so it's, not to compare, like, try not to, like, if someone's opening up to you, that's just their experience and you've had yours, but that doesn't mean that yours is any less or theirs is any more. And I think that, while things like do get better and things like you said, but some people may not feel that way and not know where to get help, and I, especially, like a lot of our students and things like that, are first generation American or second, generation, things like that. And they're learning English and stuff like that. But most of the resources here in town are in English, or a lot of our, things like that. It might be scary to be someone who speaks a different language in our city or something else, to be able to find those resources when you're just met with, everything is in English or things like that. And so I can't imagine how like scary that would be. And so just knowing that, most places like hospitals, or even if you look up the therapist's office, things like that, that there's people there that will help you for free. Like just be like, here are the list of resources in your area that are free. If you have insurance, maybe some of these will be able to help you. That, sometimes a Google search, it isn't always helpful. So there's a lot of people in town that be able to help you. Or the Emporia Public Library just got a grant to have, I think it's like 5 Wi-Fi benches around town. So that way people can go to them and get help online and just, sometimes it's scary and it doesn't seem like it's going to get better, but there's things out there in town that will help them.
Yeah.
So this is a good segue. Tell us what kind of resources are out there, Melissa.
Sure. So we always try to give people 24/7 resources that are nationwide because we know a crisis doesn't happen between 8 and 5, right?
Mhm.
So 988 is the number one resource that we encourage people to reach out to. You can call it, you can text it, or you can get online and type because if you're really upset that you're able, you need to get your emotions out or you're not a phone talker, texting or being online. You can also text 741-741. That's the crisis text line. They're 24/7 as well. You can also go online to them as well if you prefer chatting that way because it's easier for you because you need to get everything out. Those are the two resources that we really share because when you call 988, especially they have designed them now to where whatever your area code is. So as long as you have a Kansas area code, you are going to be directed to a 998 center in Kansas. You're going to speak to a Kansan who knows the landscape, the economic, all the things, right? And we have 5 different centers in the state of Kansas, which is amazing. If you go to another state, it'll try to route you, by state, route you back to Kansas. So very, very few times will you be waiting long enough to roll over, but you get to roll over 4 times in Kansas before you get kicked to another state. I've gone online before to see what the chatting part is like, and I think I waited 2 minutes before I was connected to somebody live to chat. So it is not a very long wait time. And those counselors and volunteers that are on the phone, they go through extensive training before they are allowed on the phone, number one. And they will stay with you until they feel you are both, that you are de-escalated, you are not a harm to yourself, and you don't have to be suicidal to call it. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you just have so much going on, or you're really upset and you just need somebody to talk to, utilize that as well. Utilize it as well. And if you're worried, about Ashley or you're worried about Selena and you're like, I don't know what to do, you can call it and they can give you resources for our area of, hey, well, you have this, 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 and this, local for you. So I encourage people to utilize and to share that number if you know somebody who's struggling. We have business card size with 988 that's on it, and I will give it to individuals and say, this might be a resource that benefits you.
Mhm.
You may not need it right now, but put it on your
Yeah.
fridge
Yeah.
so you have it
And
for sure.
right. And like a few months ago, I had gotten kind of in a darker place and things like that. And I hadn't self-harmed since 2017. But it was something that unfortunately would happen for a long time. And I was having some of those thoughts again and everything. And I was scared to share it with Selena. And so I did reach out to the 98 and
Good
I
for you.
did the chat because I was,
Okay.
not in a state to be able to be on the phone and
Sure.
everything. And like you said, it was very quick. You could tell that it was a real person. You weren't talking to AI, you weren't talking to a
Yes.
bot or anything.
Mhm.
And it was someone like, and one of the things that they said that really I was kind of surprised by, because usually they're like, oh, most people are like, oh, don't do that. Don't do like, they're like, no, like literally they said like, oh, I can understand why you feel like you would need to do that to release emotion or something like that. Like it wasn't in no way were they condoning anything,
Mhm.
but they were just validating like, yes, this is something that a human feels. This is something that, like someone might feel like they need to do to
Yes.
help themselves. But at the same time, not talking down to someone because because I feel like I needed to do that to get release. And they were able to talk me down from it and I didn't self-harm or anything. So I can still, say that, it's been 8 years since I've self-harmed but it was just,
And
it was
that's
nice. So,
awesome.
yeah, I'd be
That's
like,
amazing.
and it's just like to be able to talk to a person
Mhm.
and the fact that it's a person on my phone, but they're real and they're able to help me through something was
And that's
amazing.
great. And how did you feel with it being like a third party? All they knew is what the information you were giving them, right? They didn't know anything about you.
Right. There was less pressure because at any
Right.
time I could log off if I
Mhm.
wanted to. And it was, I mean, and later I spoke to Selena and because I basically had stayed in the car and did it and she was inside. So she didn't know who I was talking to or anything. And later, told her and had told her, I did reach out to a crisis line. I did talk to someone. I'm okay now. And of course it was still scary, but um, it was helpful and made me feel like it was a lot, the time between not feeling like okay to tell her and then being able to tell her was a lot shorter because I had someone to talk it through with. And I feel like it's one of those things like, yes, I could have called like a therapist's office or something like that, but sometimes those waits for months.
Yes.
And so to have a free resource like that in that moment when I was, scared that I was going to hurt myself, it was, I couldn't have asked for a better, I was just like the fact that I knew that I was able to reach out, that they have the typing option. Like, it was awesome.
That's great. Yeah.
It is. We hadn't actually had the 988 director on our last.
He's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does the outreach. He was on our podcast. So he has an amazing podcast. His name is Brooks. Yes. He does a lot of our events. He's tabling. He does educational. He just told me today that he has to do 10, 12-hour shifts at the Kansas State Fair. Can you imagine? Outreaching for 12 hours.
Oh,
I'm like, it'll be fun on day one, and then your social battery will be drained.
yes.
10.
Can he just outreach from backstage at one of the big concerts?
Right? Yeah. Jam out those
Yeah.
business cards out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But he sounds like
Yeah.
they've got some pretty cool swag to give out. So,
Sounds like a
Oh.
grueling week, though. Like you said,
oh, yeah.
first day's going to
Oh, boy,
be.
it's going to
Yeah.
be a lot. But they're inside, he said, and they're in the same room with the butter sculptures. So I told him to bring dinner rolls.
Oh,
Yes. Oh my goodness. That
And
is
he
cool.
said, if the butter starts melting, we got a problem.
Yeah.
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 Somebody's cholesterol's going up.
Right?
Yeah. True.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys. You guys have been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have.
I'm
Yeah.
very proud of both of you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for letting us, for asking.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, absolutely. Yes. And I would love for you to volunteer with us.
Yeah,
We have so
absolutely.
many events, and it's very, we don't force you to be in front of people. Like, it's whatever you're comfortable with. If you're a behind the scenes person, like you don't want to be registration. Look at Selena. She's like, yep.
Yeah.
Ashley's like, I'm
Yes.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be different.
Yeah.
Selena will be like, I'll be over
Yeah.
here.
I'll make
She's
like 10 new
"I'm good."
besties in like 5 seconds.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, I'd love to have you both.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great experience to be able to meet and connect with different community members who struggle.
Yeah.
And you would be surprised
Right.
of who in our community struggles and is, kind of stepping out and telling their stories.
Yeah.
It's nice to see.
Yeah.
Nice to see them take that mask off for
Yeah.
that event.
Are you doing the suicide prevention walk again for
Yes.
September?
So we have a
Okay.
car show on September 6th. We have a
Okay.
bicycle ride on September 20th. And then we have our walk on the 27th.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And then I think it was your walk that does the beads for the different.
No, that's AFSP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the national organization.
Oh, okay. So I think they had a walk 2 years back here.
Yeah.
Or something like
I
that.
used to organize those walks here.
Oh,
That's how I
okay.
got into it.
See, because I met you when you were tabling for was it the Hornets?
Corners for Hope?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I still have like one of the like OG T-shirts.
Did you really?
Yeah, from
Corners
like.
for Hope is back and
Yeah.
operational.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Because I used
we sure
remember
are.
when you would table at the Memorial Union, and I would
Oh,
come
yeah.
by and be like, "Oh
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, yeah.
yeah."
Mhm.
So I'll have to find that T-shirt.
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
She's also a college student. so
You
she-
are. So you could join Corners for Hope.
Wow, that's true. I used to have one more semester. I'm graduating with my master's in December.
I
So-
have one more test to take and I graduate with mine.
Yay!
Yes.
Congratulations.
My econ test, I have a question and a half to answer and I am done.
That's awesome.
I took a quiz the other day.
You did.
Kidding.
It's
I
like-
took a quiz the other day.
It's like, which bird are you?
The BuzzFeed, which which is the rookie character?
Yeah.
Facebook quizzes don't count.
Me and Selena over here are just like,
Yeah.
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 Heck yeah. Yeah.
Well,
We
good.
have a lot of opportunities to join us. Outreach things like or any time we can table where we are not the host is fabulous. So we're going to be part of a DCF event on September 10th at the mall, which September 10th also happens to be World Suicide Prevention Day.
Oh wow.
So I have come up with something kind of fun to do to try to get interactive. I'm going to have a candlelight vigil So you can come light a candle there if you want. And then I'm going to give you a candle, tea light to light that'll have a sticker on it. And then I want you to take it home and I want you to put it on social media and tag us. And then, whether it's for your own personal struggle, you let it for yourself or somebody that you lost, just to kind of light up
Yeah.
social media
Yeah.
with it.
Will you be at Great American Market this year?
No, that's the one thing we don't do because
Okay.
we have so much merch
Oh,
that
yeah.
we do a U-shaped table and there's about this much space between you and the next booth. You can't
yeah.
get in there. And
Yeah.
it's so hot on that asphalt. Oh, gosh. Even if the sun isn't out, at some point during the day, the sun is in your face.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's a rough one for us.
Right.
And I kind of punk out of that one. I'm like, no, I'm not going to sit down in that heat. I'm not going to make anybody else.
Right. But
Yeah.
it sounds like there'll be lots of other opportunities to be able to see you out and about the community.
Oh, yeah, plenty of
Yeah.
opportunities. Yeah, even if you like to prep for events, because we do swag bags and, you talked about self-harm. We just created this really cool 6 bookmark series for self-harm because that's what the teens were talking to us most about. That nobody
Yeah.
talks about it.
Right.
And so on the back side of each bookmark is a coloring
Oh, that's
thing.
nice.
So student can have it upside down. So it's discreet, right? And the other side is a resource. So how to help yourself if you self-harm, how to help a friend, because we did have that question.
Yeah.
Then resources available. There are resource or self-harm warm lines to call as well and text lines. I'd never heard of them before because it's not shared.
Right.
But you collect all 6 because it creates a picture on the back when you're
Oh.
done. So
That's cool.
That's
you
cool.
have the resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know the organization To Write Love on Her Arms
Yeah.
is a big one for just getting resources for self harm.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So just trying to reach out, and we're trying to start a teen advisory board. We want to create our own teen group to come together who don't quite fit in maybe at the traditional group at school, but want to get involved somehow. It'll be hosted by Beacon for Hope, but the things we do does not have to be mental health related. Just formation of the group is suicide prevention, of making connections. So we've been invited by a state agency. They have funding for us to donate, so we can do stuff.
And then that'd be an awesome opportunity to partner with like Bloom House and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then, I mean, also just Selena and I as, a same-sex couple and things like that have done with it. I mean, it'd be something that we could always be like, hey, I can do whatever.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of cool stuff to keep you busy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're bored,
yeah.
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you have ideas, I'd love to hear too.
Yeah. Ideas are always good.
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Well, good. Thank you guys for joining us. And
Yeah. Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm proud of both of you. You guys have really, have some major milestones for each of you.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
Thank you so much.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And I think it's great that you support one another where each of you is at. There's no pressure.